Okay. So I'm using it just because this foundation thing. This was foundation. So you know, no name actually collation. So the whole idea was to create a favorable environment, stakeholder buy-in for food-related fiscal policies. That was what the advocacy was all about. So a bit of what do you call it? A recap of what pushed us. We find that food insecurity, and undernutrition really has reduced. But we, as a country, continue to face the burden of malnutrition in the aspect of undernutrition, overnutrition, and issues of micronutrients are still gas. And we find for food insecurity, we have 12% as the national average. And if we look at the rural and then the urban divide, we have quite a lot of issues in rural compared to urban. When it comes to issues of chronic malnutrition, nationally we are about 28% prevalence under 5 standing rates. Then there are other disparities, although we have lower national rates. In some regions are very high, higher than national average. Like you find the northern region about 33%. We all know the burden, the economic burden of these challenges on our capacity, productivity-wise, and any other things. And when it comes to anemia, we're still struggling. Very high their reproductive age. Almost close to half of women in their reproductive age in Ghana are anemic. Which is really, really we can get there if we take interest in addressing issues of our food environment and having policies that really direct things within Ghana, and also put our budget where our problems lies. Obesity is a huge problem, and prevalence keeps soaring in our region. And in fact, for women, their reproductive age, usually, I mean, if you look at the what do you call it, the variance comparing males to females, we always have the women topping the chart for us. Dietary diversity, we find about 60% of women are able to meet their minimum dietary diversity. But for children, it is quite worrying. It's just 17% children are able to meet the minimum dietary diversity. And we So I spoke about obesity earlier, and you see the graph is appreciating. I wish our GDP was appreciating in this rate. Unfortunately, our health burden is rather appreciating madly. And this is what drives the whole thing, that unhealthy food environment and cities predict within the low and middle income countries. So the evidence points to that health. So where is the momentum? Where is the evidence building momentum? Lessons on implementing the robust sugar. But a lot of evidence has been generated, and part of this evidence you can't find some of these. Can't find in some of these publications. So I spoke about Mexico earlier, and you find most of these countries that actually jump into some of these countries coming from the Southern Americas. Mexico have 10% tax on sugar sweetened beverages. That resulted in 5% decrease sales at the end of the first year, another 9.7% drop in sales second year, with the largest decrease among post-economically disadvantaged people. In Chile, also, we find SSB tax was able to boost the monthly purchase volume and higher tax volume of the higher taxed sugar substrates by 21.6%. And that is very remarkable. If you're getting 26.5 population reducing that, of course, you are gradually hitting safe levels as far as addressing your obesity and age-related NCDs. Of course, there are others too that actually influence a change in formulation of product, and as evidence in places like Thailand, United Kingdom, Portugal, Malaysia, and our own backyard South Africa, which would push industries in reformulating their much or much healthier options. For the evidence, there are quite a number of them. I believe that we would find time to look at some of these things. Some of these things. But a little about the A4H, using advocacy and scholar activism. This project is aimed at creating a favorable environment for sugar sweetened beverages, for fiscal policy, sugar sweetened beverages, and also to drive stakeholder buy-ins. It's looked at also identifying realistic legal pathways where there were some legal aids that were reached. To look at the evidence we have within our country, what our laws are saying. Is our laws biting on any of these things? Our laws promoting, or is our laws actually also going to support any enactment of tax? That the project also created available evidence to support advocacy and scholar activism. So some of our own colleagues were engaged to develop evidence that were saying in Ghana. Quite a number of interesting papers came out. There is one that just got published recently, and I believe there are many others that are in the pipeline. There is the one that was led by recently, this about 2 weeks ago. We are also looking at if twice. But who is leading that? Okay. maybe you should follow up. One, I know one is being called. Well, ours is not yet ready. The one, yeah, well, they said they finished with the third generation. So it sounded like right. Okay. So what was to identify the legal pathways. Second, to look at support of advocacy, activism, counter positions for every industries. Again, to strengthen the coalition building stakeholders, then implement communication and media advocacy. Feasible pathways to enact the tax in Ghana. So these were the key objectives. Whose activities was to actually create evidence on the issues of SSB. And you can see that the project engaged almost all the key universities, key public universities who have programs around nutrition, aesthetics, many other things. So you find here University of then University of Health part of the academic stage. Then on the civil society front also, their actions were to mobilize civil society, demanding accountability. And that is why I said our job is not finished. Because now we need to demand accountability, tax implementation, and contribute to awareness creation and sensitization. We've done the awareness creation. The sensitization, I'm not sure we are there yet. We are still in. I still believe we are in a. And these are the organizations. We had the Ghana NCD Alliance, and then 20 other civil societies were identified to join this campaign. We also had the Public Health Association, of the public health education and sensitization, where the Ghana Public Health Association and the Ghana Academy of Nutrition and Diet were kind of in their respective areas. The project was sorted by Prof. La, and had a set of project staff, Patricia and Annabelle. It was explaining the financial issue. That of which one representing the academia in PG. Dr. Kansim sent the academia from UCC, Professional Anand represented academia from KNUST, and Profai represented academia from US. And UHAS was represented by Prof. There were other international partners who provided mentoring. Michelle, Prof. Charles, Ajiman, Netherlands, Fanny from Belgium. We also had Mensa, University of Ghana Business School. I think he looked at the marketing. Yeah. Then we had Crystal from US, and Charles Capri from KNUST, and Marie from Australia, Melissa. GAND was represented by the GAND. James Amwa for the Ghana Public Health Association, and Labram Musa represented the Ghana NCD Alliance. We had all these stakeholders, from regulators to ministries, as key non-coalition stakeholders and allies to this drive for that. I mean, these were the key strategies that were followed. There was landscaping and evidence synthesis, there was political economic analysis, there was legal feasibility analysis and corporate political activity analysis. There was capacity building initiatives within it, which were carried out by different stakeholders that were in. This is one of the resource maps that were followed, identifying the advocacy strategies and audience and the changes that we desire. We had in mind that the action that would be is countering opposition, coalition building, modeling an SSB tax, and then a regulatory feedback and championing development. And what was to be done in getting that was the public will campaign, the advocacy, media advocacy, the leadership development, the media forums, public forums that were done. Then at the awareness phase, we looked at the public education, public polling. In fact, there was a poll also conducted on this, just to get have a fair idea about what would be with this tax. That is what in brief the A4H campaign, people who supported that. GAND, we had the zones doing their art. We had a committee of 5, right? Yes, a committee of 5. Had Madame Pearl Salome, had Madame Sena, had my vice, Percival, had Professor Anan, and then Eunice Berkum, the team, and also had supporting us at the class, and he was the last name. And Okofio also supporting us at the last campaign. But I must also acknowledge that Madame Hamda also did a lot for us, linking us the zones. But that's false. I wouldn't end this by also saying thank you to every role that, and we had it in mind that we want to get to the period that every project we get, it wouldn't even be handled at the national level, because the project should be at the the respective regions. So when a project comes, we should be able to get these zonalists to form the project committee with probably one national, one GB member being more like a liaison or something, follow and direct things. And then you do the work and then report on it, and then that's all. I think something that we should get there. We should be doing, but it all depends on us seeing the activeness of the students, what they can do to help us. Because we cannot do anything. We can probably go and look for the money, and then you also do the work of doing the work, dropping the money, and reporting effectively on it. I think that would be a fair deal for all of us. If that's being far, the zones must be active, very active, and need to target that. This year, I must tell you that we use virtually all our resources to ensure that things are done at the zone and all that. It is not easy. The money, we may see it as very small, but it is not easy squeezing them out of the other budgets that we have and the other responsibilities that GAND needs to. It's all in good of everything. Because GAND is actually about the zones and not about the board side. So, congratulations. Planning for the SSB. Well, I mean, we had a short-term goal, one, to raise a coalition that also had in mind non-existence of fiscal policy that in the short-term goals, be able to get government by developing a policy that addresses because it was becoming a national menace. Yeah. So within the short term, but for the long term, we're looking at ensuring that we have a healthier food environment going forward. Also having policies that help maintain that gains that importantly, we also look forward that it would inadvertently address the issues of happiness, which is very wise. I think we have a very important man in the call, and since he's shown up here for me, at least I will do. So my own professor, Profai, you can see you joined us. So if you can say hi to us. And Zaid too is online with us. I think he's on his way here, right? So you can all say hi to us and share a word or two with us if you can hear our voice. I think Bofai has problems with his net. Zaid, if you are not having a network challenge, you can say hi to us. We are expecting to see your face. You might also be on his news. Okay, this is a very important question. I think the last time we met on this issue, it's one of the things that we discussed when we met on the FDA and other policies. Um, the thing is that for the tax amendment bill, it's just a straightforward thing. Government does it, but its implementation is done by various agencies that and as civil society, government has not told us what they are going to use the tax in any way. But it's just part of taxes. It has become part of taxes. So you realize that whatever revenue that is going to be generated fund or whatever. But it is for the respective ministries to make an incursion into some of these things. But before they can achieve that, it takes us as civil society again to say, okay, you have put up the tax. Because one of the things that came up clearly was that if you now start to tell them where to use the tax, they may not even bring the tax at all. So let them bring the tax. And then now take the fight to the next level. Now you brought the tax. Now we're having challenges with getting basic facilities to manage NCD, whatever. Can you increase the budget of Ministry of Health towards putting up resourcing regional facilities, or at least regional facilities on various implements of needs? With that, can you look at the budget of Ministry of Health in that respect and that respect? Civil society then can begin to make those advocacies that, okay, 2% or 20% of or 10% or 50% of those taxes that are generated should be used for this or that. That is also another level of the advocacy that needs to. But for now, I'm not sure government is obliged to use the tax for what he can use it for whatever he wants to use for. From the whatever that came up, it wasn't like he's taking the tax to do something for you. It's a tax that is being imposed, but with the main frame that this is a health kind of tax, and it's going to reduce consumption and all that. As for the evidence, I think it is too early to conclude on that. I'm sure by the time we do the next national census or whatever, we would see whether this has helped or not, based on the prevailing evidence now and what will happen in the next 4 years. But of course, and that is one thing that the academy we should be thinking about. Because we are an academy and we say we pride ourselves in providing credible evidence. So where is the evidence? We need that so much so to continue any of our on any further campaign. Maybe even for now, we can do an awareness government the public understanding of this exercise amendment bill issues. How does the public understands it? How is that influencing their consumption of purchasing of some of these things that these tax affect? How is it affecting their household? Because we shouldn't just be concerned about there being no consuming. What is it? What has been the real implication? We can look at it on all fronts and then continue to make continuous advocacy. So it doesn't end there. We have a lot to really do but part of it as an academy, I think. I remember part of our GB workshop, we thought about setting up, we had a decision to set up and they are to propose to GAND certain researchable schemes that we can possibly either look for funding to do or from the same meager funding that we have. Maybe we can float, maybe let's say GAND is floating 5,000 on a particular issue. Then the schools would compete for it, whoever gets it. Whichever lucky student gets it. We support the generate evidence. These are the evidence for GAND. Once you generate it in the public, we can drive that. Research committee has had that now, but I believe that with time we'll get so it's not out of our radar, it's still in our radar. It is for us to track. Some of these things. I will talk about civil society action if does it. That's yeah. Anyways, okay.
We are returning the amendment to we are returning I'm sharing it here, and then it's also should go here, isn't it?
To go. So you've said already.
Yes, by having one.
Yes, so it's come. So it's by extension.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll make this quite brief because some of it also aspects are presented already. And I've called it all about SSB. And what I've tried to do for this presentation is to look at the facts about SSBs, but also to look at the economic justification for enacting SSB taxation, because that's really the big question. If people say they are struggling and they can't make ends meet, and then you are bringing more tax, then it means that they are going to make their lot worse. And so, is there any economic justification? And so this is the outline where I'm going to the facts, but then also end with whether there's the justification for us to still push for the continuation of the tax, and of course issues around the impact and the outcome first, and then the impact will have to follow. You know, you have to have 2 years evaluation of the outcome, and then also do some long-term evaluation of the impact. I won't dwell on this, but just to show you that the picture is bleak. The childhood undernutrition is being grappled with, but they remain at proportions that are unacceptable. On the other hand, adult overweight and obesity is rising at a very steep rate. And so nobody's happy. So it means that you have a household where the mother is overweight or obese, and then the child is stunted. And then the husband has anemia. And then the daughter of the mother who is pregnant also has anemia. So it's not something we like. But I like this concept that was put forward by one of the researchers in South Africa to show that anytime we look at the drivers of a problem in a society, especially disease, there are downstream factors that have to do with the person, sometimes their own biology and then their behavior. But there are also upstream factors that have to do with the societal and structural issues that drive how people behave. And so you need to look at that and see which one is really playing the driving, which one is really a determinant of the disease, and then address them. But when you come into nutrition and look at the current trend of obesity and non-communicable disease, then you see that the drivers, the upstream factors seem to be really pronounced in recent times. So this is what has been described as the nutrition transition: urbanization, modernization of food systems, and change in food systems that is driving a change in consumption to energy dense, low fiber, micronutrient poor diets with very poor physical activity. And we see this all the time. So this is Ghana many years ago. We all were grandfathers living in Accra were going to their farms and picking things. And Ghana today, everybody is by the trot to pick it. And then afterwards we go to buy some energy dense food and consume. So it goes to say that we are in the nutrition transition that was described by Popkin in 1993. And then everybody now says the food environment is obesogenic. So again, it's talking about the structural and then the societal factors. So environment, we find out is obesogenic. where you see obese people commonly, but you also see the obesity drivers. One of the obesity drivers is SSBs. And the problem, again, is where you can buy water at a higher cost than buy SSB. I would say that at any time I see that it's a worry to me, because if people think drinking as juice as food, but water is not food. So I don't see why I should buy water more expensive than food. So I'll use it to buy food, which is the SSB. And this must be, it's a contributor to the obesogenic food environment that we are talking about. And it's both in rural and urban areas. So some of the studies we have looked at the level of overweight and obesity in rural and urban Ashanti regions shows very similar levels. So here in our office study, we showed 59.1% of adults who were predominantly women were either overweight and obese. And that was in the urban area, and then 50% in the rural area we chose, like peri-urban rural sort of area where they are mainly doing their farms. And so we know that it's overweight and obesity is lower in males than females, but when it comes to rural-urban divide, it is not really pronouncedly different. So what are these SSB? I've talked about them already. They are basically some say sugary drinks, but we should be careful when we say that, because it has to be sugar that has been added. And so some drinks may be there that come naturally sugary, and they must also be avoided but we know that the natural sugars probably that come with the food inherently may not be as harmful as the added sugar. And I say that they come in an array of things. So we shouldn't be, we must be careful to tell people that it's not only the sodas and carbonated drinks, but there are also sports drinks. It's a sports water, but it's sugar. Energy drinks are, in fact, they said that somebody was so worried when we were at the Love FM program. He called on the line and he said it's a foreman. He has masons and carpenters who are supposed, they come every day to work, and they don't eat food. They buy bread and energy drinks. That's all they eat, and it worries him. But energy drinks are also SSB. So unfortunately, some of them the caffeine levels are also very high. So it's even much more dangerous. And the juices, vitamin drinks, vitamin drinks to give you an impression that you are drinking vitamin, but you are drinking predominantly sugar. And I like the fact that when you look at the NOVA classification of ultra-processed foods, SSBs have been classified with ultra-processed foods. So SSB is ultra-processed. And ultra-processed food is the food that you cannot tell the ingredient from the product. So when you look at the product, it doesn't tell you what it was made from. It becomes an ultra-processed food, and SSBs have been classified clearly with them, so we cannot say that we don't know. And so these are the different types in the NOVA classification. SSB is among them, and research has shown that ultra-processed food consumption is associated with health harms. So without much to say, SSB consumption is associated with health harms. And also for us to be able to educate our people, to let them know how they can tell that as the sugar in the beverage, because it comes in different names, but are all sugar. So somebody may, and a very lay person may be looking to see sugar rating. So when sugar is not rating, they wrote maltose. Maltose is actually of a higher glycemic index than even sugar, because maltose, it is glucose. So it's even more dangerous. But if the person says, oh, maltose, and it has maltose, it doesn't have sugar. So we should make sure that they are not deceived. And I already presented this showing that SSBs are high in sugar. One pack of one pack of sugar is 4 grams of one little a pack of sugar is 4 grams. 1 teaspoon of sugar is also 5 grams. A typical 350 ml of SSB soda has 9 teaspoons of sugar, or 9 of the small of the blocks of sugar. And that is really, really, really not something that we want to say. And that ties in with this, because the recommendations for different groups of people, ages, life cycle groups, according to how much sugar, I mean, the normal simple sugar should be consumed, it's over there. For the children up to 2 years, no other sugar at all as part of your energy requirements. 2 to 18 years, less than 24 grams, and that's just 6 teaspoons. And an adult woman, 24 grams, which is also 6 teaspoons. And an adult man is 36 grams. And I just want to let you know that one soda of 330 ml is 9. So if it's 9, it means that a child below 2 years can drink. Children 2 to 18 years cannot drink. Adult women can't drink, not one a day. You can't even drink one a day. Even men, they can have one. How many people, the people we know, how many do they drink? Especially the one that is 1 cedi, 20 pesos. I think that is 1 cedi, 50 pesos. That one, I don't want to mention the name. Yes. They do 2, 3, 4. And only one for an adult man. It's really bad. And these are the different ones. I mean, there's the colas. You can see the different amount of sugars in all of them. Some of the energy drinks are very high in sugars, and even lemon squashes that and the dilutables and others, even iced tea is very high in sugar. And I tell people that when I do tea at home, even if I'm a sugar, those who don't like sugar, maybe half or 1, but even the young guys, they always say, you like sugar, but they put 3. But the iced tea has 8. So really, 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 this is dangerous. And because it's a product that's already coming, they load them with the sugars. And I brought some other facts from papers and different studies that have been done in the US, Korea, and all that. Australia, they have been able to, calculate what you are taking in when you are drinking these SSBs. If you drink 600 ml of SSB a day for a year, you'll be drinking close to 20 kilograms of sugar in a year, like a bag of sugar. So you can say something small body means that small body that year, a bag of sugar has entered. And that person, I mean, so you can imagine what you have metabolized. That is why now when you do metabolic age and then the person is 32, but the metabolic age is 57, they don't want to understand. I say you are 32 years old, but what your body is like a factory, isn't it? Some factories are there, they have the machines, but the machines are not as used as other factories. In some factories, 24 hours, they are always producing. So you can see 2 factories, both 20 years old. One factory is old because the machines have been used. And one factory is like a car that ladies with their cars, they don't misuse them. But if it's a man, you can see that it has been misused. And if your car, you are buying a car, make sure it's not a taxi. It was not used as a taxi. Because it may look bodily new, but the amount of miles it has gone because it was a taxi is very high. The same thing about how much of these you drink and how much sugar the body has metabolized and the implications for life. And some of these facts also show approximately 11% of the calories you've consumed come from SSB. Just SSB is giving them all that amount of the proportion of sugar. And to burn 150 ml by a child, he must cycle for 30 minutes. And an adult must do moderate pace walking for 25 minutes to burn 1 can of SSB. I know that even us sitting here now, I don't know how much we are walking these 3 days. So if you were sitting here also drinking, thank God we didn't drink any. We are safe. And the studies have shown consuming 1 soft drink per day could lead to 6.75 grams of weight in a year. And each 350 ml increases also obesity by 60% in children. And so the studies that relate SSB consumption with weight and other cardiovascular diseases are there for all of us to see. There are many more. I don't want to go into them. The linkage between obesity and NCDs are known. I mean, therefore, on first principles, we know that if you consume your sugars and you don't use them, you will turn them into fat and you will stop. As simple as that. And SSBs are high in sugars. So as they are high in sugars, consuming them will increase your weight. And if you increase your weight, there's risk, the association between overweight and obesity and dyslipidemia that leads to cardiovascular diseases, or hyperglycemia that leads to diabetes, and the complications thereof are all from first principles of science that we are all aware of. And so it is not surprising that studies, big studies, cohort studies, prospective studies have shown clearly that SSBs cause heart diseases, clearly shown in different large studies. And we also can link SSBs to dental caries in children. The studies have also shown, as you can see from the source there. And we know, we are worried because Ghana's food environment is like that. And it's a good question you asked. It hasn't changed, but like also President said, maybe we should not be quick in saying that we are seeing it's being consumed. It could be that it's there because the consumption has gone down, so it's more in the shop. So when it comes to do the evaluation, hopefully GAND will be well represented, and then we'll be able to see whether there's any impact on the taxation. So I just want to, and the policy opportunities to address them, the best buys, you talked about them, enforcing taxation is just one of them. So I want to end with the economic impact. Is it really a problem to enact a taxation? We did one of the reviews for the A4H study and did the economic impact. We reviewed various, but focusing on sub-Saharan Africa, we identified 16 studies that have looked at different aspects of the economic implications for SSBs. And you'll see that definitely they have shown that it increases price, and price increase discourage consumption. And for sales and purchases, it has shown to decrease purchases, and that will also associate with lower consumption of sugar. And some of the studies talked about reduction of purchase by about 28 to 51%. And because taxation is going to the government, it's in government value. Show even industry, some of the interests are lifted and then absorb the same people. So the net effect on employment, loss of employment, really is not worried that we should be worried about. What we should be worried about is cross-border shopping that was shown by some studies, because if I can just go to Togo and they don't have such a tax, I just cross quickly, I load my truck, find the bush and then enter, and then I don't pay the tax. And then so it's happening in countries that have border countries, share borders with countries that don't have the tax. So one of the things we can do if ours become very successful is now work with Togo and then work through ECOWAS and work with Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso, those three countries, to enact the tax to reduce that. And clearly the reviews show that consumption reduced 22% in children and 27% in adults in South Africa. But the argument we made was, how do you look at economic burden? So even if you go back and look at the increase in reduction in sales because people don't come by, and then those that have the industries are paying more tax, because they have not reformulated, and as you can see, it as negative on the economy, which people always say. But then Bloom itself said that you must look at economic burden in 3 ways. When people are sick, there's a standard cost of illness that come to the people that overall will also affect the country. So the medical costs that they have themselves and the non-medical expenses, like medical costs, tests and all that, buying medication, or medical expenses, taking car to go to hospital, it's costs that come to the people, and it creates a burden on society. The society also loses through other indirect costs to the society, because the people who are sick cannot have and perform their labor, and the society must also spend on them. So, for instance, some of the costs that are borne by national health insurance, when you have let's say you go there with NCD, there will be some costs that have been borne. The country will incur. Then also there's a cost that will come to the person who, if he dies. So the costs due to early mortality are also there. So for you to really make a justification, you must compare the economic burden. So the economic burden is burdening the person, isn't it, with the gain. So the gain in health, the gain because you are not spending on people who are sick, the gain because people are not dead, are the things that the government and every country must look strongly at before they also make a decision regarding the economic burden that taxation brings. And if you, that is how we justified our study at the last to conclude that it is still important to have the SSB taxation, even if people are not reformulating and therefore the country is losing money because businesses are closing down and all that. You must also look at the economic burden that the disease brings. So in conclusion, that Ghana has double burden of malnutrition. We cannot underestimate it. And the fact that sugar also increases calorie intake, weight gain, heart disease and diabetes, other NCDs and other diseases, and even some cancers are also shown. And there's a strong socioeconomic justification for taxation from the studies that we have looked at, and also the analysis that have been made by Bloom et al. On that note, thank you very much for your ears.
I've heard this presentation a couple of times, but each time I learn something new. I think for the first time, the cross-border thing has hits me strongly. You have to actually do look at it. I was just finding for now. So whilst we are trying to engage in maybe a question or two, it has a debate. Anyways, you have something to say. And let's say you're nice.
Now, Lewitu is my second hometown.
I know.
You don't
met you several
you have met me several times there. See, see my friend, he hasn't been there. This Fugu is moving for him today. I should be wearing that Fugu today. This morning I saw my one and I was tempted. But when I wear it, I sweat.
It means you are not an individual. When we wear, we feel cold.
The Chiefs wear 3 or 4.
The singlet is what?
And they wear different on them.
Any yes.
His call is going through, but it seems the body is swollen. The spirit is swollen, but the body is weak.
The public more. The public is made up of consumers and people who are selling as a source of income. And once they see that you are pushing for government to increase tax, there is 2 different feelings. It's like, well, you are sort of doing something that is going to affect our business.
Yeah.
And people who are working in factories that are producing these things feel like, okay, they are going to need that. What happens to us? So I think GAND would have to work more on producing more evidence to convince the people. For example, maybe looking at the impact of the food environment that has a lot of this on school-going children. The impact of school environment, the SSB, the nutrition outcomes, school-going children. Even if we pick this up and do a research on it and present the paper out there, that's for example can be a starter to convince parents. For example, when we look at the data on incidence, it's going up at the clinics. Almost every week, you have maybe 3 out of 10 people working in the NCB. I'm told I listened to a conversation online one time. When you look at even the cancer, liver cancer is one of the top. I thought it would have been prostate or breast cancer, but surprisingly, it's rather liver cancer, and all is linked to it. Unfortunately, we don't have a convincing evidence enough. So I want to suggest that maybe GAND should look at putting in effort to do a research, and then we can convince the stakeholders more. The other confusing thing for me is about FDA. When you watch TV,
Just for last he just woke up, so we should give him 5 minutes to join us.
When you watch TV and you listen to the radio, so these products are endorsed by FDA. Now I wanted to find out from FDA, one of the stakeholders who is helping us join this fight. Because if they are promoting it, if they are endorsing it, look at the billboards. This advert is endorsed by FDA. I want to know, where do they stand in this? Are they with us or it's not clear to me.
I think the point is made.
The point is made. The point is made. They will tell you. I think that's some of the collaborations to change that are on the way, because something like front of pack labeling, we don't have a policy. So FDA cannot tell somebody that you can't have your products, but they know for now what they can do is to say that it's not safe. And so they have the safety policy which they follow and they ensure that you have done. But then they don't have a mandate to say that it has the sugar, so it should be reduced, you should go and reduce it. We don't have a front of pack labeling policy, but it's being worked on, and I know that the A4H is taking on the arm. The aspect that you raised about letting people know the evidence. So this man who has lost a job or has lost some hours at work because the company is reduced their whatever, that man may also have his wife suffering from hypertension because of SSBs. But he won't link it, even himself, but won't link the two, that because of the reduction more because of my condition. And if I were to link, I would see that I still have a gain of 5 cities. And if this taxation reduces my consumption or my household consumption, I will see that 10 cities. So I'm gaining. He can't see. But you see, that's also a perception about, forgive me, now I'm going to go like all Africans. We want to see money, see all these type of people are not. Sometimes even the government, if you try to explain macroeconomics, that is why they don't really fund
And one part of it has to do with preparing very creative evidence. Things that are just basic flyers or basic fact sheets that are very pictorial in depicting the problems that are likely to emanate from it. Like the scenario he just gave. Maybe see loss of job, gains in your household, people, assuming 5 people in your household are sick with this disease, this is how much you spend. And this is one of the things that actually changed the landscape. That changed the landscape. Interesting. Okay. So the thing that really changed the landscape of so, maybe when Prof. Lai is speaking, you have to increase where we hear him from the speaker. So the thing that really changed the landscape was this nutrient profiling thing that happened somewhere in 2005. You realize that after that, we had quite a lot of gains with respect to that. And because that was just because they developed an advocacy tool that related the bedding, economic, and many other burdens that we intend to face when we have a percentage of micronutrient deficiencies and whatnot. And this actually pushed a lot for some policies like the National Action Plan for Nutrition and many other things that happened across, and it made a lot of impact. If we really will be able to address, and because also you see our NCDs high and all that, because most of our campaigns earlier days have just been under 5 malnutrition and micronutrient deficiencies. Now that we are seeing some of these pictorial way of depicting the challenges that we have, and how some of these things are likely to cost the nation and all that, back to some of these modules. At some point, somebody also suggested that we need to have a discussion. We need to be able to also build capacity of our lawmakers or of our legislators and all that. And it's something maybe GAND can focus on writing probably to the office of the First Lady, who is championing a lot of nutrition activities. Unfortunately, recently, Anama got in touch with me that the First Lady's office wants to do something. He wants GAND's help and gave me Sheila's number. I've called this lady and 1,000,000 times. She's not responded to my calls. But he said the girl was looking for my number, and I made the effort to call. She never picked my call. She sent. I told Nanam also about it. Yeah, but I think we can mobilize. Yes, because I found it as a very, very important opportunity. That's easy, cannot find it. Share with you. Send on the WhatsApp. So that maybe we can, together with the First Lady's office, even do some capacity building around these issues with parliamentarians and all that. Something that we can do to her. Because in fact, when I heard that opportunity, I was really, really excited that we are already looking for a link to get to this woman. They are bringing themselves, and somebody to want to spoil the. Yeah, in fact, they Let me see.
Okay, so allow him to share. Then I can increase the volume here. Then it comes through.
Hello, Profla.
Good morning. Good morning, Prof. Preco. I could hear you, but there's feedback. Are you able to hear me? Okay.
We are able to hear you.
Okay, thank you.
We can hear you very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks so much for making time to join us. We understand everything, but it's so wonderful you joining us. So we have in the room, maybe I should put on my video so that you see around our.